it is 11:30. So just to remind you guys of what this week is going to look like, we are going to be reviewing today, Monday. Tomorrow, Tuesday, we'll have like a little review assignment. And then Thursday, we'll also review. And then we will we'll have our midterm exam on Friday during class. So on Friday, we'll show up and we'll log in. We'll have a Google form for the exam, and you guys will just take the exam, and that will be it for Friday. Okay, hopefully you guys will go into a nice, beautiful, sunny weekend. Okay, so as always, if you guys have questions, feel free to ask in chat or turn on your mic, and then we'll go from there. Okay. Also remember that if there's anything that you guys miss, that this will be on YouTube later today. So if you guys need to go ahead and do that, we can do that. Okay. All right. Okay. So let's go ahead and take a look at the review for midterm day 1. Okay. So we're going to have to go through quite a bit of material that we had covered. So I'm going to go through one section at a time until we get to where we need. So the first section was 5.1. Now in 5.1, there was, we did work on naming triangles. So remember we talked about scalene and isosceles and equilateral, obtuse, acute, and stuff like that. But the real big thing that we worked on was the triangle sum theorem, right? That's the thing that we focused on this year. Okay, so the triangle sum theorem. And all that says is that all triangles, or I should say all angles in a triangle add up to 180 degrees. Okay, and that was a big one, and we've been using that quite a bit in everything that we do. Okay, so all angles in a triangle add up to 180. And just an example of this, and you guys have seen examples of this throughout all the work we've been doing, right? If you guys have been doing the homework, which hopefully you guys are doing the homework, remember that's 80% of your grade, then we've been doing a lot of examples of that. So for example, right, if we have something like this, then we're going to have 2x, then I'll put degrees on that, and x minus 6, and like that. So we're going to be able to solve for x here because the angles add up to 180. Okay, so again, the sides never add up to 180, the angles do. So I have 3 angles here, right? Remember that this box represents 90 degrees. And then we're going to be able to go ahead and just say, hey, that 2x angle plus that x minus 6 angle plus the 90-degree angle equals 180 degrees. So it's always the 3 angles in any triangle are going to add up to 180 degrees as long as it's flat, because if you get into curved space, they don't add up to 180. But that's not this class, but I don't also want to lie to you. Okay? All right. So what would I do here? Well, I would combine like terms. So I have 2x and x, that's 3x. And then I have negative 6 and 90, so that's going to be plus 84 equals 180. Okay, and then I would subtract 84, right? Get rid of that. So I get 3x equals, oh my gosh, that's 96. And so I divide by 3. And so I get x equals, I think I'm doing this right, 32. Did I do that right? Yeah, 32. Okay, and then, yeah, so there we go. And then you can always plug those back in, right, to find missing angles. I didn't ask this time, but 2 times 32 would be 64 degrees. And then 32 minus 6 would be, oh my gosh, my subtraction right now, 26. Okay, so that is the triangle. Oh, lots of people coming in late. Triangle sum theorem. Okay, so again, all the angles in any triangle add up to 180, and we've used that in a lot of our homeworks. So make sure that you guys have done all your homework, right? So your homework is 80%, and I guarantee you guys, if you have been doing all of your homeworks, you're going to be doing just fine on this midterm, because we've been practicing this stuff. Okay, we've been practicing it in class, and we've been practicing it with the homework. Okay, so that was 5.1. 5.2. Okay, there was, again, in 5.2, there was a lot of stuff, but I'm just focusing on the big takeaways, and that was congruent statements. Okay, so with congruent statements, this was our first look at what congruence meant. So first of all, remember congruent, right? What does that mean? It means same shape, same size. Okay, so congruent statement, so same shape, same size. So then when we're talking about congruent statements, right, we're talking about, let's go blue here. I'm just going to go like this. All 6 parts must be congruent. I should say all 6 parts must be congruent to corresponding parts. Oops, sorry guys, corresponding parts. Okay, so all 6 parts must be congruent to corresponding parts. Okay, and what we mean by that, right, is order matters. So order matters. And we had a couple of different types of problems like this, and I can save some practice for that later. But let's say I have a real basic example here. Okay, so let's say I have triangle ABC is congruent to triangle DEF. Okay, and now remember, congruent is different than similar. Okay, so let's say I have triangle ABC and triangle DEF, and let's say this is 3, 4, 6, and then this one is 3, 4, and then we're like, what the heck could this side be, right? So don't you guys miss the days of congruent? Congruent was so simpler because it's just the same. We don't have to worry about scale factor. There's no scale factor with congruent. It's just 1 to 1. Well, I take that back. The scale factor is 1, right? So we take a look, okay, EF, right? That is the last 2 letters. So EF goes with BC. So when we take a look at BC, this is 6. So my answer is 6. Okay. So when we have congruent statements, we're saying that all 6 parts are congruent to corresponding parts, right? And the congruent statement helps us identify which pieces are the same. So for example, angle A, that comes first, so it's congruent to angle D. So angle A and angle D would also be congruent, okay? And again, if I go over something that's confusing, please feel free to interrupt me at any point to ask a question, okay? All right, so that's what 5.2 was really big about. It was congruent. Congruency means that order matters and that corresponding parts have to be the same. Okay, so we'd use that to solve things. Okay, and of course we can make that more difficult by making this have an x in it, and then we'd have to write an equation. All right, so that was 5.2. We're really zipping. We did quite a bit, so I just want to make sure. Okay, and then we did 5.4. And this was isosceles and equilateral triangles. Okay, so those are two special types of triangles. So for isosceles, isosceles has two congruent sides, and it has two congruent base angles, right? And they're opposite of each other. So this is called our base. These are called base angles. Right, we have our legs. And this is called the vertex. And I know I'm going a little fast, but I am trying to get through a whole half of a trimester in one go. So just remember, this is going to be up on YouTube. Okay. And then an equilateral triangle. What made an equilateral triangle an equilateral triangle is that all of the sides are the same and all of the angles are the same, and they're all 60, right? And the reason why they're all 60 is because the angles have to add up to 180. So if three angles are the same, a third of 180 is 60. Right, and we solved problems with that and did stuff like that, okay? All right, so that's 5.4. Now, for this next part, I'm not going to go, I've already, and you know, I want you guys to know everything I've done so far was basically my first lesson of this trimester. So if you guys want more detail, just go back to YouTube and check out the first video of this trimester, and it has all this stuff in a lot more detail and a lot slower. Okay, so we did a lot of proofs after this, right? So everything after this was proofs, whether it was proving triangles congruent or proving triangles similar. So since this is already on YouTube, I am not going to spend a lot of time on this. Okay, this is already on YouTube. Okay, so check out our YouTube channel, right? And the link for that YouTube channel is on Google Classroom, right? It's on class videos, and we just go to that first day, right? So day one of this trimester. Okay, which is spring. Okay, but just to do a quick overview, I'm just going to make a very quick list. So obviously I'm going to go too quickly for you guys to write this all down. Okay, so what I would do is if I write something down and you don't remember it, I would write it down. You know what I mean? So only write things down that you need to refresh your brains on. So here's just kind of my list. We have to know complementary angles. We need to know supplementary angles. We need to know midpoint and bisector. And more importantly, know that they, right? There's going to be two congruent parts. Right? Because a midpoint is in the middle of two equal things, and a bisector cuts something into two equal things. So midpoint and a bisector, right? Meaning that there's going to be two congruent parts. Really helpful for proving things congruent, right? Transitive and substitution. Okay. Reflexive. Oh my gosh, we use reflexive all the time now, right? I remember when I first wrote this down, you guys were like, what? Reflexive? Like, I remember a teacher saying that, but I don't remember doing it, right? We use reflexive all the time, don't we? Okay. Triangle sum theorem. Triangle sum theorem. We talked about that one. Then we have if parallel lines, then dot, 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 right? We have alternate interior angles are congruent. We have corresponding angles are congruent. We have alternate exterior angles are congruent. And we have consecutive interior angles are supplementary. Ran off there. Okay, so again, I know I'm going too fast, guys. I don't want you to write down everything. All of this is already on YouTube. This is just I'm just doing a quick thing. So if you see something up here and you're like, oh man, I forget what that is, just write down a little reminder. Be like, I need to go back and study this. Okay, so this list that I'm making is a list as a student I would do. So this is like I'm showing you guys how I would study for a test, right? So these are all things that we've done. Not to forget some big ones, right? Vertical angle. Vertical angles was a big one. Okay, we use that one all the time. Bow tie problems, right? Right, you guys remember vertical angles always happen in bow tie problems. And then linear pair. Right, that's another big one, right? So a linear pair going on there. Okay, and so I'm just going to call it good there. So again, if you guys want, go to YouTube. Go to YouTube channel, the first day of this trimester, and I went more in detail in all of these, okay? But these are all things that we've used in proofs. Okay, so if you guys are like, man, I'm struggling with proofs, that's probably because you don't have these down, okay? Because if we don't know these and we don't understand these, it's almost impossible to do proofs, okay? All right, so I feel like because we finished last trimester with the chapter 5, section 5.1, 5.2, 5.3, that's the second time I've gone over that. So let's get to the new stuff, okay? And the new stuff is proving triangles congruent and proving triangles similar, okay? So I'm just going to group 5.3 through 5.6 together. And really it's not. It's 5.3, 5.5, and 5.6. Proving triangles congruent. So I'll go back to going slow now. I can zoom in. So 5.3, 5.5, and 5.6. We're going to be proving triangles congruent. So there are 4 ways to prove triangles congruent. SSS, SAS, ASA, and AAS. And we're always going to do these first. Okay. And really, this is all we added, right? And so we have all these, above this, we have all these different things that we can use to prove triangles congruent. So remember, the way that this works is this is 3 congruent corresponding sides. This is 2 congruent corresponding sides, but the angle's in the middle. And then this is 2 corresponding angles with the corresponding congruent side in the middle. And this is 2 congruent angles, corresponding angles with a congruent corresponding side on the outside. Okay, so again, tomorrow we're going to be practicing doing all of these. I'm just making a list, and what you guys should be doing, right, is just like, oh man, do I remember this? Do I remember how to do this? Did I struggle with this? Right, when I did the homework, was this easy? Was this difficult? Okay, and then you're just making a list of like, these are the things I need to focus on. It's kind of like a checkoff list. So when we start going through practice, so we're going to practice tomorrow and Thursday, when we practice those days, right, then you guys can check them off and be like, okay, I get this, or I don't get this, I have to ask for help. Okay, I'm going to do a little funky business. Then 5.7, right, is after proving triangles congruent. So after proving triangles congruent, we have C, P, C, T, C. This comes second. Right? And I'm not going to write out the formal definition because you don't need to know that. Well, I can just say it. So corresponding parts of congruent triangles are congruent. But the street definition is if triangles are congruent, then all 6 corresponding parts, are congruent. Okay, so if triangles are congruent, then all 6 corresponding parts are congruent, right? So remember we did proofs where it was like, hey, prove this angle and this angle are congruent. Well, the very first thing you would do is say, okay, are the triangles are congruent, so these have to be congruent, right? So that's the way that we approach things. So if you're proving something that, like, let's say this side is congruent to this side, then the first thing you would do is say the triangles are congruent. And then you'd say, because the triangles are congruent, then these pieces have to be congruent as well. Okay. So I'm going to hit pause for a second. So again, I'm not doing any examples with this yet because that's what we're going to do. We have the end of today, all of tomorrow, and Thursday to do. Okay, so we're just making a checklist of what did we cover, what do we know, what do we not know, where am I going to need help. Okay, so it's kind of to organize your studying process for this. Anybody have questions so far? Anybody have concerns? Isn't this cool how much you guys learned? Like, if you guys are sitting there like, yeah, I got this. It's pretty awesome to be like, whoa, when I started this, I had no idea what was going on. Okay. All right. So I know this feels a lot, but we only had 2 more things after congruent triangles. Okay. So after congruent triangles came 8.1 and 8.2. And that was similarity. Okay, so similarity. And the symbol for similar is this. So similarity means same shape, different size. So same shape, different size. And what that means for us is it means same angles and the sides are proportional. Okay, so same angles, sides are proportional. And that's what we're going to focus on a little bit now, is just clean up what we have been doing. Okay, so with similarity, right, we have a scale factor. Okay, so let's talk about scale factor a little bit. Okay, so scale factor. Oops, I almost just called it farter. Okay, scale factor. Making lots of typos today. Scale factor, right? I call it SF. The book calls it K. Right? Scale factor, if the scale factor is greater than 0, you get bigger. Or sorry, greater than 1. Greater than 1, you get bigger. If the scale factor is less than 1, you get smaller. right? And if it is 1, then you're congruent, right? Then you're congruent. So let's go over some examples of similarity, and then let's clean that up and then we can talk about what's going to happen for the rest of this week. Okay. So how do we find scale factor? Okay. So finding scale factor. So let's say I have triangle ABC is similar to triangle ABCDEF. I swear I know the alphabet. And let's say I have, this is 1, 2, 4, and this other triangle is 3, 6, 12. Okay, and this is A, B, C, and this is D, E, F. Okay, so to find scale factor, we're going to find scale factor in the sides. So the ratio of sides is the scale factor. Maybe we should write that down. The ratio of corresponding sides is scale factor. Okay, and right, so scale factor, right, and the book calls it K. That's fine. They shouldn't, but it's fine. So we just have to set up the ratios of all the corresponding sides, and that's our scale factor. And remember, for there to be a scale factor, it has to be the same for all sides. If one side has a different scale factor, they're not similar. And so I really want to emphasize that again, because that's how important it is. Wink, wink, nudge, nudge. If all of the ratios aren't the same, then they're not similar. Okay, now in this case, we know they are similar. So we know already that they're all going to have to be the same. But if you're trying to show that they're the same, we have to, right, all the sides have to be similar. Okay, all the same sides have to be the same scale factor. All right, so let's take a look here. So we could go two ways, right? So we have a smaller triangle, we have a bigger triangle, right? So my scale factor, if it's bigger than 1, I'm getting bigger. If it's smaller than 1, I'm getting smaller. So if I just default from going left to right, I am definitely getting bigger. So I know that my scale factor should be greater than 1. So we always write scale factor with new over old, right? So this would be my new, this would be my old. Okay, and I'll show you if you make a mistake with this, it's not a big deal. But for example, right, I always label this big, small, medium. So this is my biggest side. This is my small side. This is my medium side. Over here, this is my small. This is my big. This is my medium. Okay, so then I know big should correspond with big, small should correspond with small, and the medium should correspond with the medium. So if I do new over old, I get 12 over 4. I get the small is 3 over 1, and the medium I get is 6 over 2. Now, we're going to want to simplify all of these. So, and you can use, the cool thing is, because everyone has access to technology in this, we're going to have, if you just type this into Desmos or a physical calculator, it will reduce it for you. So 4 goes into 12 3 times, 1 goes into 3 3 times, and 2 goes into 6 3 times. So right here, that's our scale factor. Okay, and since we're going from small to big, let's double check. Did I get big? I did. I'm bigger than 1, so I'm gonna get bigger. Now, let's say you made a mistake, right? Let's say you did the wrong triangle on top. Okay, do you see how all it does is it flips? So this is getting smaller. Right? So all it does is flips. So so what's more important than anything is making sure you're consistent, right? The same triangle on top always. But if you pick the wrong triangle on top, you can always look at it and be like, does this make sense? To get from a small to bigger, am I multiplying by 1/3? No, that doesn't make sense. That would make sense if I'm going from bigger to smaller. It would be 1/3 the size. Okay, so as long as you're consistently picking the same triangles on top and bottom, if you make a mistake about what goes where, just at the end, just flip your answer and then you have the other direction. Okay, so it's not a big deal there. All right, how are we doing so far? We doing okay, guys? I know a lot of people haven't done this homework, so I spent a little bit more time on it. Speaking of which, make sure you guys do your homework. I know we're studying for an exam, but the exam's only worth 10% of your grade, right? The homework, the practice problems, that's 80% of your grade. And also remember, there's no penalty for late work, and you can redo any assignment. So make sure you guys are working on your assignments. Also remember that I have office hours from 8:30 to 10 a.m. every morning except for Wednesday. So if you guys have an assignment that you just haven't been doing and you want a little extra help with it, come to my office hours and we can work on it, okay? But I need you guys to come to the office hours. I can't seek you out and force you to come to my office hours. So come to my office hours. Let's get the work done, right? Remember, if you didn't do well first trimester in geometry, if you get a C or higher this trimester, that you guys move on regardless of what grade you got first trimester, okay? So that's a heck of a deal. So if you guys are in the blues, you're just like, I just don't get math. Well, first of all, I don't believe that. And second of all, we have a great opportunity to just be done with geometry and move on, okay? So please, please, please come to my office hours. Don't have regrets, okay? All right, so finding scale factor. That was one of them, okay? And then finding missing pieces. So finding missing sides or angles. Okay. So let's take a look at that. So with finding missing sides or angles, you first have to know, for sides you need to know the scale factor, and for angles you just need to know the the corresponding angle. Okay, so let's go ahead and take a look at a couple of examples of this. So here's our first example. So let's say I have two triangles. So I have 15, 20, and X, and then I have 18, 30, and 24. Now, the problem here is we can't use the large, small, medium because we don't know what the value of X is. So in this case, we're really gonna have to, here, let's go A, B, C, D, E, F. Okay. So we're going to have triangle ABC is similar to triangle DEF. Okay, so in this case, labeling small to small, large to large, medium to medium, it's not going to be helpful. So we really want the help of a similarity statement. Notice how, right? Congruent statement, similarity statement. So we really want the help here. So there's a couple of steps into solving these, right? And we did this with word problems not too long ago, right? So if we can do it with word problems, we can do it without words, right? Right? So this is kind of like a word problem, but we already did all the hard work. So always start with the side that you're looking for. Right? Always start with the side that you're looking for. And then we want to find what side it's corresponding to. So in this case, we're going to have segment CB. So I look, CB is the last and the second. So the last and the second is FE. So that's going to be X with 30. And then we just need one more side. Now, with the word problems, there was only one side. So it was really easy to pick one. Here, we have two more sides. And so it doesn't matter which one you pick, right? Just the only thing that matters is, since we started with X on top, we have to start with this triangle. So that means we can either start with 15 or we can start with 20. I'm going to go ahead and start with 15. And then I'll say, okay, 15 is AC. So then that's DF. DF. So that goes with 18. Okay. So right here, this is my proportion, right? I have two ratios set equal to each other, because if the triangles are similar, then the ratios of all the corresponding sides should be the same, because that's scale factor. I hope this is all coming together for you guys. I hope it's clicking. Okay. So the ratios have to be equal to each other because they are similar, which means the ratio of corresponding sides should all be the same, because that is literally scale factor. Okay. So to solve this, right, it's X divided by 30. So I'm just going to multiply both sides by 30. And we don't freak out with fractions because this is just arithmetic. And a calculator will do all the arithmetic for us. So I'm going to have 15 over 18, right? I can make it look really pretty like this, times 30. And I get X equals 25. Okay. So again, I'm going to stop there. A lot of people don't have this assignment turned in. So I just want to double check with everyone. Are we doing okay with this? And I really think you guys are at an advantage over all other geometry trimesters. So because we're going to have 3 days of review versus where my other classes only had 1 day of review. So you guys are like super lucky. You guys are going to be feeling really good, because with this new schedule, we have so much more time, right? It's 4 classes instead of 2. It's double. It's almost like being in an extended class. All right, so that's finding missing angles and missing sides. So missing angles, again, the angles is really easy, so I'm going to leave that one for there. Okay. All right. So that was 8.1. And a lot of people are missing 8.1, so I really want to make sure that you guys know to go back and look at your homework and check which ones you have missing, because there's no penalty for turning in late work. You just got to do it. Okay. All right. So that was all 8.1. Finding missing sides, finding scale factor. Then 8.2, we got into proving, oops, I'm just a little off there. Okay, proving triangles similar. Proving triangles similar. Okay. So proving triangles similar. So there are how many ways? So we only talked about one way. I mean, there is SSS similarity. We kind of talked about that, but we don't have to know it because we didn't do a proof with it. So we have AA similarity, right? All we have to do is show that two corresponding angles are congruent. Right? And that's pretty easy to do. Okay. Now, technically, there is one other one, is that show, right? Or, right? So we can go like this. Or show that all ratios of corresponding sides are the same. Okay, so we have those two there, right? So we're either showing that there's two corresponding angles are congruent, right? So that's AA, or we're showing that all the ratios of corresponding sides are the same. Now, This one isn't so much a proof as it is looking at it and doing it. But we did do quite a bit of proofs with AA, right? So AA, not only we did proofs, but then AA allowed us to do word problems and story problems where we found missing sides. Right? AA allows us to do those indirect measurements where we can measure the height of things or the distance or the width of things that are larger in real life. Pretty sweet. And we didn't have any new things in there. So the only other things is there going to be word problems? Yep. All right. So what the heck did we just accomplish? Well, we went over a lot, guys. And so this is just like a super basic list of everything that's going to be on our midterm exam Friday. So what we're going to do between now and what are we doing? Between now and Friday is we need to practice doing all this stuff and doing questions. So I kind of want to put this up to and see what you guys think about this. This is what I was kind of thinking. I'm thinking starting next class, so that's tomorrow, we're going to do, I've put together a review, a chapter 5 review and a chapter 8 review. So chapter 5 was triangles and congruent triangles. Chapter 8 was similarity. And I'm going to have you guys work on that. And then, so next class, I'll let you guys work on that. And then Thursday, so my hope is that Thursday, you guys can come to class with questions and be like, okay, crap, I tried this review and I'm stuck on this. And then we can do specific practice problems from there. Does that sound like a good idea to you guys? So I'm thinking tomorrow, you guys do the studying. And then you guys figure out where you're stuck. And then Thursday, you come and you tell me, crap, this is where we're stuck. And then I'm going to do my best to get you unstuck. And then that way, you guys drive what happens Thursday, right? So that's kind of the goal. And then Friday, you'll come in and you'll take the midterm. I know people usually have questions about tests. So just a couple of things for you guys to remember. The midterm is designed to take like 30 to 40 minutes. So, and when I say designed to take 30 to 40 minutes, I mean, when we think of the people who are the slowest test takers. So, the slowest test taker should take 30 to 40 minutes to take this. And remember, you guys get 55 minutes. So even the slowest test taker is going to have plenty of time, okay, to take this test on Friday. So again, if you guys are remote on Friday, then you're going to show up, you're going to take the test, and as soon as you're done, then you're done, right? So you take as much time as you can, and then you do that, okay? So that's going to be this week. Remember, the midterm is 10% of your grade. Compare that to 80% of your grade being the assignments that we work on. Okay, so we want to make sure that you guys are getting those done. And remember, there's no penalty for late work, and you can redo any assignment. To redo an assignment, you just need to email me and say, hey, I'm in your second period class, and I want to redo this assignment. Okay? So with that said, before we move on, does anybody have any questions or comments that we should go over? Yeah, absolutely. That is a great question. Yeah, once we do, so you guys can turn in any missing work can be turned in to like the class before the last class of this trimester. Does that make sense? So like I do have a cutoff because I have to close off your grades. So like in June, we go all the way to June. So I think we're done in June 16th. So I think June 14th or the 13th is the last day you guys are going to be able to turn in any missing work. That will be the cutoff. And that's so far from now. Because I know we'll forget. I'll remind you guys as we get closer. There will be a cutoff for turning in missing work. Because at some point, it's like, you know, when you have a couple of months to turn in some work, it gets silly at that point. Thank you for that question. Does anybody else have any other questions? I also appreciate the people saying that they don't have questions. That's good too. Okay, so we're gonna have to do some review questions. So I was just going to let's get started on what tomorrow might look like. Yeah, let's do it. Okay. So let's do an old school proof because we haven't done congruent proofs in a while. So let's do a bow tie. Okay. And then we're gonna have some givens. And we're gonna say segment AC is congruent to segment EC. And segment BC is congruent to segment DC. And I want you guys to prove that triangle ABC is congruent to triangle EDC. All right, and then I'll put up a little timer. I think 3 minutes is plenty. 3 is plenty. So let's do that. And then we'll go over it. And this is a proof you guys have seen already, so some of you might have some muscle memory with this one. But write down your givens, right? Write down your givens, update your diagram, and then you're looking for what else do we need to prove these triangles are congruent. All right, let's go ahead, guys, and take a look at this problem. Okay, so the way that I would do this problem, right, is I would do a 2-column proof where we have statements and we have reasons. So I have my first statements are always going to be, I'm just going to copy paste my givens, right? So I don't have to do too much thought here. Just kind of copy paste, right? Given. And then I'm going to update my diagram. So I have segment AC is congruent to segment EC, and then segment BC is congruent to segment DC. So if I take account for what I have a pair of sides and a pair of sides, okay? And then I'm just thinking like, wait, doesn't this have vertical angles? It's a bow tie problem. So these two angles would have to be congruent. Now, I know some people, it's very common to struggle with how to name these, okay? But remember, that's just one part of the proof. So even if you didn't know how to name them, you can still write down, hey, I know I'm gonna have vertical angles, right? And that provides me with a pair of angles right there. So even if you didn't know how to write them, okay, we still know, hey, my next step here is gonna be triangle ABC is gonna be congruent to triangle EDC. And then I can say, look, well, I have an S, an A, and an S, and the A is touching both angles, or both sides. So this is gonna be SAS. To name them though, just take your pencil and go start at one of the corners and go A, C, B. So you just start the first one. Now you could also say BCA, okay? But then, since we have a congruence statement, I can just say, hey, what does A go with? A goes with E. What does, oh, this is an angle. C goes with C, and B goes with D. And then you're good to go. So you just get that first one and then rolling. So what do we think, guys? Was this super difficult? You're like, oh my gosh, I can't remember how to do proofs. Or are you guys thinking like, hey, I can do this? Too easy, Craft. Well, that also can be an issue. I mean, don't get me wrong. If I wanted to make a problem so difficult that you guys wanted to claw your eyes out, I can do that. Okay? But yeah. You ready for that? Okay. We can do that. I can crank up the heat. Well, we only have time for one more problem. So let's do. Let's just do this one last problem. No, I'm gonna have you guys do that tomorrow. Okay, let's just do this. I'll do another really easy one to end things up because I want people's confidence to be high. I want people to think, yeah, I can do this. So that's a terrible picture. Don't do that. Oh, sorry. Was that a comment about clawing your eyes out or don't be confident? Either one works, right? The thing is, you don't know how good you are until you do something that you can't do, right? Everyone's got to find their limit, right? So it's not bad to do a problem that's difficult. Okay, just really quickly. So given that segment BC is congruent to segment DA and that segment AB is congruent to segment CD, I want to know triangle ABC is congruent to triangle CDA. And we we only have a minute, so just look at this and think how you would do it. So just look at this and think how would you do this. Okay, and I know people at school need to get ahead and do this. So I would update this, right? So we know these sides are congruent, these sides are congruent. And the key here, right, is reflexive property. So these would be congruent by SSS using that property. So that's it for today, guys. Take care. I will see you guys tomorrow. We will use tomorrow as a practice day to practice all this stuff. So take care, everybody. Be safe.